Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight in this Woman of Mixteca Challenging the Bias panel. My name is Maria Simon, and I'm joining you all from Richmond, Virginia. However, my permanent home is Brooklyn, New York. So I'm just joining you this evening from Richmond. And I'm the board co-chair with Aaron Covarrubias, who's also on the line this evening. And I am so thrilled to see how many people have joined this panel, because in celebration of Women's History Month, one thing that is really important to highlight in this conversation is that women are the backbone of Mixteca. Mixteca is a community-based organization in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, that works to support Latinx immigrants in Brooklyn and beyond. And some of the most important programs that we run at Mixteca are in support of the women of the community. And tonight we'll be having the chance to have a conversation with three incredible women who are immigrants themselves, who work tirelessly day to day to make the organization run and ensure that everybody can find a friendly face, a smile, and all the support they need. So we're gonna learn more about their journeys as immigrants, as professionals. We're gonna have the opportunity to ask them some questions. So I'm really excited to have them here. I wanna start by introducing them. So I'm gonna read their bios because they've achieved a lot, and I wanna make sure that I don't make any mistakes. So this is the one part that I'm gonna be reading tonight. I wanna make sure that I get that right. So I'm gonna start by introducing Lorena. Many of you know Lorena. But Lorena is the executive director at Mixteca. Lorena is a native of Mexico City, stepped into leadership as Mixteca's executive director in May of 2019. She has devoted her work to building a social movement that moves away from mainstream systems and has maintained a strong track record of serving underprivileged communities. Lorena earned her bachelor's and master's degree in psychology from the prestigious National Autonomous University of Mexico, UNAM. And she also holds a master's degree in social work from Hunter College at CUNY. She has received numerous awards for her work. Welcome, Lorena. Lorena, thank you. Okay, and Vianney. So Vianney Romero Mendez. Vianney is the director of programs at Mixteca, and Vianney brings with her years of experience working with immigrant communities, particularly immigrant survivors of domestic violence and human trafficking as Mixteca's directors of program. She has a track record of working with children, youth, and the adult population. She's a firm believer of providing linguistically and culturally appropriate services and hopes to continue educating and empowering the Latinx community, the Latinx immigrant community through this framework. Vianney received her bachelor's degree from City College of New York and an MSW from the Silverman School of Social Work at Hunter College. Welcome, Vianney.
Thank you. Hi.
Thank you for being here. And then we're going to introduce Janet Ferris Valle. Many of you know Janet as well. Janet recently stepped into a new role at the organization as the Director of Development and Compliance. But Janet was born in Puebla, Mexico, and raised in the Bronx, New York. Janet has committed to advancing Mixteca's mission since 2017 as then volunteer program coordinator to now Director of Development and Communications. She has experience working in nonprofit programs to serve the immigrant community using a social justice lens as a directly impacted person. Janet holds a bachelor's degree from Lehman College, where she double majored in political science and computer graphic imaging. Welcome, Janet. So I know we're all anxious to jump into the conversation, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. And Janet, I'm going to start with you this evening. So you recently stepped into the role of Director of Advancement at Mixteca. And one of the things you've spoken about is about some of the challenges that you're finding stepping into that role as an immigrant woman, but also the opportunities. So I would love to hear a little bit more, and we'll all love to hear a little bit more about your experience in this new role and about those challenges and opportunities that you've spoken about.
Thank you, Maria. Y sí, como dice Carlos, go Lehman Lighting, the Lehman College. So yes, so I did recently step into the role of Director of Development, which is an important role, especially for a growing organization. It definitely seemed like an intimidating role, just because it is tied to money and bringing resources to the organization. So I stepped into this role last year in November. For my understanding is a lot of the roles that are held for development work are held by white men or white women that are majorly connected to resources and connection. And many of them, many times, have generational connections, no? And so, especially in the nonprofit world. So for me, this is not my case. I am the first person in my family to pursue higher education. I had to learn how to navigate the college. I had to learn how to really flesh out a professional career that involved working with the community that I'm from. So I didn't have any idea how to exercise or how I would exercise my degree, because I am undocumented. I do have DACA, but at that time, I went to college just knowing that I wanted to continue studying, but not knowing how I was going to exercise that degree. So for me, I had to really start from the bottom. And I think with development work, a lot of that has to do with connections and who you know and kind of building those relationships. And I think a part of that is also that I do come from a humble background where growing up, we shared housing with tios y tias, extended family members. And so this is my background where you come from a low income background and now you're in a position where you have to really bring in those resources. And so for me, it seemed traumatizing in a sense, just because there's a lot of trauma, right, with money and what that brings. But I think this happens a lot especially for people of color. And so I think, yeah, we're just highlighting that, you know, even though these challenges have been happening or have happened, I think the opportunity now that I see is there's a new vision or a new pathway to create. And this is where, you know, we're starting with people that directly impacted and that are able to bring that experience and really present. I think with development work is a lot of it is tied to the white savior story, you know. Someone's going to come in and someone's going to save our communities. But I think now I have the opportunity to really tell the story of the communities and the community that we serve in a very dignified way. And so this is where I'm taking the role now and really trying to challenge this, especially in the development work and the nonprofit world. And so, yeah.
Thank you, Janet. And I love how you ended with the opportunity and that connection to really you're part of the community. So what better than that connection to really find the opportunity in bringing a new perspective to the development world. So thank you for your work and thank you for sharing with us tonight. Vianney, I have a similar question for you. So your role at Mixteca is also somewhat new. You very recently joined the organization as the director of programs. And I'm curious if in your experience so far, you've encountered maybe similar challenges or similar opportunities. And what are you looking forward to in terms of collaborating with Janet in her role as director of development?
Yeah, great. So similar to Janet, I come of a similar background of being an immigrant, first person in my family to achieve college and graduate with a master's degree. Something that was never an opportunity for my family, and opening those doors for myself while opening doors for those that look like me. So in the nonprofit world, I've seen women in roles of program directors or program managers, but very few in leadership roles, and even fewer, if not rare, Latina immigrant women in leadership roles. So the challenge that creates or that I have personally faced is being heard or seen or acknowledged in spaces among other professionals. And my knowledge, my expertise has been constantly questioned by others because of my appearances, my identity, and my background. So when I step in a room, what people see is a Mexican woman. And I have been questioned if I'm in the right place, or face instances in which I am being told, no, this is a meeting for such and such. If you're looking for services, check in with the front desk. So having to constantly claim my space, educate people while opening those doors for myself, and opening those doors like people that look like me has constantly been my challenge. It has constantly been also an opportunity, right? As Janet has mentioned, to educate people, to let them know that I am here, that I have as much or if not more expertise than they do, because I come with a knowledge or a background or a struggle that they haven't faced, and a struggle that community that we serve constantly faces, of having to hold space, having to claim their space or reclaim it, because this is our nation, this is our country as well. So yeah.
Thank you, Vianney. And I think that part of reclaiming our space as women, as immigrants, as professionals is a very valuable part of the work that we're doing in challenging the bias. There's a lot of bias that come into play when you think about immigrant women and what you expect their experiences to be. And like you mentioned, Vianney, like maybe sometimes you come into a meeting and people don't expect you to be part of the meeting. So thank you for sharing that. And we're so thrilled about the opportunity of having people who represent our community, not only in the short term, but in the long term as well, because it is very important for people of the community to see themselves reflected in the people who lead the organization. So Lorena, shifting gears a little bit, you kind of come from a different perspective. You've been in your role for a few years now. You've also been in the nonprofit development sector for a few years, and you've had much professional success, much career success. So I'm wondering what advice you have for women who might find themselves in earlier stages of their career, that might be finding some obstacles. What advice would you have for them to help them navigate those obstacles?
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I honestly feel like a family reunion here. And it's so, so beautiful to see all those names, all those faces, that somehow we have been crossing paths sometimes in our lives. And I may have more experience or more years working on this field, but at the same time, I face the same challenges that Janet and Vianney are describing. Things don't change with time because who we are don't change, and not because we wanted to change it, to the opposite, we wanted to embrace it. And maybe that can be my first advice, if I can say one. I can think of many advices, but most of the advice I can give or I can share today, I've been taking it from other women that I've been working with. So my first advice is be around women, being around people, find your people, because there is your people out there. And I think that's a powerful situation when we feel like we are not the only one, even though we feel the only one. I many times said, I'm tired of being the first one. I'm tired of being the only one. I'm tired of explaining who I am. And I'm tired also to explain another part that we haven't discussed yet, is the language access. You can see my thick accent, and it's not the way I think. And also I have issues with my throat today because we have a rally yesterday and we yelled like crazy because we need funding for our community. And we walked from Manhattan to the Bronx. And then we were chanting too much, I guess, more than I was thinking that my throat could take it. But anyway, the point here is find your people and keep moving. Keep moving. Sometimes we're going to move forward. Sometimes we're going to feel like we are on the same place. It's like learning a new language. When you feel like you go and try to learn and you don't learn anything new and you feel like your language is still bad. And suddenly you feel like this jump, like you understand something, you understood something that was happening. So keep moving. And moving, that doesn't mean the success looking at the way the mainstream look the success. Success can look different for each person. That's why it's important to be around our own people. And I think that's what I can say. And don't be afraid of fear. Many times I've been like, when I was offered positions, I was thinking like I'm not good enough to take that position. But even though I took it. I remember the first time when they gave me some position and I had to do the purchase order. And I didn't know how to say those words. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to find the way. The easiest way was to do it through the phone. And my English was too bad that I couldn't explain one item by one item. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to find a way online and I'm going to do it. But the point with those experiences is we always learn. And what is really common to us is not common to everyone. It's a way to share. And that could be my next advice. Share your experience. Share your experience, share your struggle, because others are struggling as the same way as we are struggling. The other ones are also trying to find their own way, and the other ones are also not sure if they are doing it well or not. And just thinking like this may never change the dove inside of your head, but we are good enough and we are powerful and we can do a lot of things. And our community have shown that part. We are so resilient through COVID. We showed to the world how many things we can do. And as women who were there, women taking care of others. I am so proud of being leading this organization and to seeing all my coworkers or my colleagues or other Latinas working hard to make sure our community have food on the table, and we never think twice on this one. It's like we do our work, we deliver our services, and we run to pack food for our Mercadito Solidario, or we run to get tortas for the volunteers because someone forget about it and another person said, hey, the volunteers need food, or some, because we represent the community we serve. And we're going to talk a little more about this. And but those could be my advice. Keep moving, find your people, and don't be afraid of fail, because failing is part of learning. And acknowledge the part we are. And even if you don't believe you can do it, just try. And maybe you're gonna get really surprised of the accomplishments that you're gonna get. And I just gonna end this part saying thank you to everyone that has been there and supporting me and giving me some information or advice, or how can I say these things. I remember asking for my TOEFL test, how can I say these words? And they were like, I don't know either. So it's not just you. So when you ask, you realize like you are not the only one that don't know how to say one word. So thank you everyone for being here. And Maria, te lo mando de regreso.
Gracias, Lorena. Lorena, you're such an inspiration to so many of us day to day. So thank you for sharing a little bit of what powers that inspiration that you bring to us. And thank you for all your hard work. I think one piece of advice that resonates with me there very much that I find is parallel to my own experience is finding your own network of women who can support you through your professional career. I was lucky that I found a network of women that I've been able to fall back on every time I need them. They have been there for me. So that piece of advice resonates very much. And then don't be afraid of taking chances and pushing yourself. That resonates very much. My motto has been a little bit like fake it till you make it. And it's been more fake it than make it, but it's just about taking that jump. So thank you for that advice. One of the things I wanted to talk about, Janet, is intersectionality. Intersectionality plays a role on how you're perceived professionally. You shared at the beginning of this conversation that you're a DACA recipient. And I'm curious how being a DACA recipient and that experience has intersected with your professional and career goals, and wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about that perspective.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. So I think I'll start off with saying that I've been undocumented longer than I've had DACA. So for the majority of my life, I've been undocumented. And DACA has only been, a thing since 2012. And it's actually, for me, in my personal experience, I only applied to DACA 2 years after the program was already introduced. And there was a lot of reasons for that. One of them was it was a new program. The second reason was because I thought about how it would impact my family. So, when you apply for DACA, you're submitting all of your details, and all of a sudden now ICE or, immigration, the government, they have your information. So you have to think about these things when you're applying. And for me, it was, if they have my information, can they come from my family and, out of nowhere get picked up or be a target for ICE? And the third reason was because prior to DACA being announced in June 2012, I was actually in a civil disobedience and I was arrested. And so pretty much you have to be a perfect dreamer, quote unquote. They call us dreamers. But you have to be a perfect citizen to really qualify for this program. So I delayed my application for DACA for those reasons. And so even then, after I decided to apply for DACA, a lot of it came with a lot of the political instability. So especially when Trump came into office, we know that there was a lot of harsh policies and a lot of anti-immigrant rhetoric that was being put out in the world. Even like seeing the police or even seeing kind of an interaction with them was traumatizing or was triggering. And so I remember one time I was going to work and I saw an ICE car. And I kind of panicked and I called my parents. I'm like, I think my mom's like on her way to work soon. And it's like those triggering things that you never really disconnect from it. And you have to think about even when you're working. And so, yeah, I think a lot of it has been very kind of, I always like to say it has been a violent relationship with the government, because one day they want to take it away, one day it's in limbo, one day, you know, they're trying to push back, now it's in again. And now I have to think about, okay, now I have to apply like 6 months in advance. And now I lose time because DACA really is a 2-year work permit that you get. And so you have to think about these things when you're thinking about your professional career as well. Am I gonna have my work permit long enough to stay at the position or at the dream job that I want? And really during those conversations earlier in the DACA, in the earlier years, there wasn't a lot of time for conversations on alternative solidarity economies or co-ops. There wasn't a lot of conversations happening around that. So I think we're in a better place now, and maybe there's a lot more resources that we can turn to in case, DACA is gone all of a sudden. But it really, you're kind of living your life in 2-year increments, and really based on, is the government gonna one day just take this away? And so, yeah, I think with the impact that has had on my professional career, it kind of really limits, it's just limited in the sense that, can I plan for something beyond 2 years? Yeah.
Thank you, Janet. And thank you for being so open about your personal story, because one of the things we take pride at Mixteca is that having a team that reflects our community and understands the community we serve helps us be a better organization. So Lorena, I'll bring this question back to you a little bit. Like, why is it important and how has it helped the team serve the community better when we have people who have had similar lived experiences working at Mixteca?
Absolutely, Maria. I think it's critical. We want to tell our own stories. We want to be the own people changing our stories and our lives. And just I'm going to start a little for telling a little about everyone that is here who works at Mixteca. So at Mixteca, we work women, immigrant, with maybe we are not the typical organization that you can see, maybe a Latino second generation working or leading this organization. This is not that type of organization. And but we, as I mentioned at the beginning, we strongly believe and are committed to serve our community and to change it and to provide services with dignity, with respect, and valuing and respecting in a humble way that we respect the struggle of others, because we know firsthand how that feels in our bodies. It's like we come from backgrounds that are not, we are not the typical immigrant people going to Columbia University or NYU for the PhD and then finding a job here. We are not that type of people, not because that is bad, and I want to be clear on that part. That's one part of the community, and we are this community that we've been surviving poverty. We've been surviving coming from backgrounds that our family members are not people that are doctors or teachers, or they are not. And however, we got the passion from them. We got the passion, and we understand the power of solidarity and empathy. And I think that's powerful when you understand how people are struggling, and you know that it's important to do something to change it. Maybe a lot of people are figuring out what can I do right now when the world is, when a lot of things are happening around the world, what can I do? And I always say that I have the privilege to work at Mixteca, and a work that if I don't have it, I will be doing it as a volunteer without payment. Don't tell my board members. And but that's something that I enjoy every day. Like my work is part of where my passion is, and is part of the way we wanted to see changes in the world, and we do it every day. And I can see our community fridge or staff can be licensed social worker or going for their PhD, but at the same time they go and refill the refrigerator because there is someone out there with that may be hungry, and we put the food there. Or we can be, and that's, we can do that part because we are part of this community, and we are part of the change we wanted to see. And we are investing not just our professional work, also ourselves and our beliefs in what we wanted to do. I just love to see other community members feeling respected for first time, and when they receive services. It's not the same way. We provide maybe a counseling session or ASL classes or some immigration advice or referral to a lawyer or some bags of food. But with that service, we also give the possibility, we also give the care that we have, and we become the people we wanted to have in the past. When I just got to this country, I wish I have someone that can understand my English, understand my Spanish, and also treat me with respect. And I think that's radical. That's radical. It can seem like so simple, but it's not. It's not. And we can do that because we know the struggle, we know the powerful community we serve, and we never go from this patronizing way, the pobrecitos. We don't work that way. We know there are systemic barriers that our community are facing, and we know they are there doing their best to overcome the situation. But the systemic oppression is so heavy and hard that having us there and doing the services the way we do it is just powerful. And also as being part of the community, the changes we create in ourselves are also modeling others. I always feel like when they see me as executive director of Mixteca, other Latinas feel like, okay, if she's there. And I remember she was taking care of children just I am doing it now. So if she is now the ED of Mixteca, I may be able to do it too. So it's just showing the path for others and being authentic. I think we are authentic. We can mess it up, but we are authentic. We are authentic, respectful, and professional in the way we deliver services. That's the reason why it's so important to be part of this community and to serve the community the way we do it.
Thank you, Lorena. This is something that I have always found special about the organization, is that cultural sensitivity, that empathy, and really that incredible love that you bring to the work, to Mixteca every day. So thank you for sharing. And I agree, that's how we challenge the bias, is with that radical approach. And so where the title of this panel and the theme for Women's History Month was challenging the bias. And I think Mixteca is challenging those biases in a very radical way. So with that, I'll segue to Vianney. And one question, one thing I would love to hear is your fresh perspective, stepping into the role of Director of Programs. And I'm curious, seeing what's been done at Mixteca, what are some things that you're looking forward to implementing? And also, if you can share, what are some of the biggest areas of need in our community or in the community at the moment?
So I think the community, our community has always faced the same critical needs, such as housing, lack of food, lack of access to health. However, the pandemic intensified those critical needs and the lack of resources available to them, right? So people, like Lorena mentioned, people continue to line up to receive food from our food pantry, for our fridge, to calling to ask and request information or help with housing or access to health, how to sign up, or how to even receive an ID NYC card, right? We also mentioned how we had, yesterday we was at the march and demanding for the governor to please bring back the fund for excluded workers, right? Because it's much needed in our community that was left behind, that was excluded, that and these are essential workers that help support the community, help support society, and are stepping into society in roles where people like myself, that even though I come from parents that are immigrants and essential workers, because of them, I have the opportunity to stay at home and work from home while they are outside facing those challenges and exposing themselves, right? And needing those services that they were excluded from. So those critical needs are always there. And the community is always having to fight for them and having to be resourceful and intelligent in how they could navigate systems to receive those services and receive those critical needs. So thinking in my own experience and what we have spoken about, and seeing the many volunteers at Mixteca, the staff at Mixteca that are young adult immigrants or children of immigrants, right? I would love to implement a youth development program, because first and second generation immigrant youth face unique stressors that other youth don't usually face. For example, we have to worry not only about our financial needs and our financial stability, but also of our parents, our family. And that's something that other people have that they don't have to think about. They don't have to think about what's gonna happen to my parents when they hit a certain age and they don't have a retirement plan. And that falls on us. That stressor falls on us, right? So I would love to create a program where they receive those support, they receive those services where they meet those needs and enhance their strengths while providing opportunities for them. Because it is a stressor. It is something that we have to cope with daily. We have to cope with the fear of our parents either being deported, or our fear of our parents not having food, or the fear of us, what's gonna happen if for some reason our economy can be unstable, right? Right now we're facing a financial crisis where everybody is facing it, but our community, it's having more stresses on it because they're left behind. And I'm talking about we as an immigrant, right? And a youth are having to help my parents navigate systems where I have to become a translator. I have to represent them. And I have to be their support system. I want to create those spaces for youth that are facing the same thing, that need those opportunities to grow, to develop and enhance those strengths that they already have and those skills that they already have, and don't recognize it. So that when they step into professional careers, they could also continue to open doors for others and not just themselves.
Thank you. And I think that concept of the youth support group and kind of giving people access to that network where they can find others that are having similar lived experiences and can find their community goes along with Lorena's advice to the woman in this panel. It's always important to find that shared experience and that connection and know that there are people out there willing to support you. And that, yes, the struggle is hard, but if you find those people, then you'll take one step forward. So thank you. So before we wrap up and open it up to questions from the attendees, Janet, Lorena, and Vianney, I'll take it back to all of you and we'll start in the same order, Janet, Lorena, and we'll end with you. What is one thing that you'll all like people to know about the community Mixteca serves from the perspective of challenging the bias? So what's something that we might not know that you'd like everybody to know about the community?
I would say I love to know that our community is loved. They always, when there's a challenge, they find a way. And I think for Mixteca in particular, we are mostly woman-led. And so when women are in these positions, we know that they make things happen. But really, really all in all, our community is led by love and for love. So I would say, I would love to highlight that because, you know, even if in these hard times with COVID, the COVID-19 pandemic that came, a lot of people lost their loved ones. They had limited access to health care. There was a lot of mourning happening and grief. But even at the end of the day, we all still came together to really, you know, just be in community and be there for each other, whether it was through the food distribution or, you know, just handing out a pack of masks to each other. I think that's an amazing representation of the community that we serve.
Thank you. I know an act of love from Lorena to the community was that she put cilantro and other traditional ingredients in the food boxes. And I thought that was done with much love. Lorena, what is one thing you would like everybody to know about our community?
I wanted to say that our community is overachiever, that our community is powerful, and we are ready there, waiting for the opportunity, because no matter the barriers we face, language, poverty, systemic barriers, immigration status, we at Mixteca have demonstrated the power we have when we get together. And I also wanted to say that our community is ready for an opportunity all the time. And if you in some way have the possibility to bring them an opportunity, you're never gonna regret. I never regret to hire people from co-ops, to hire people with some challenges on the immigration, as I hope the board never regret to hire me, regardless of my English and don't look like other EDs. And if we give the opportunity, we are resilient like many other communities as an immigrants. We didn't leave our country just to stay here and to mess it up. We are ready to do whatever it takes to succeed. And yeah, I want the people here to know that our community is powerful, and we are ready to do it, and we're going to do it together. And an example of that is what we have been seeing at the community fridge. The community fridge is outside for the ones that don't know, and people take whatever they need and pour food if they have the possibility to do it. And I expect people like with more financial stability to pour food, but no, it's everyone. And I remember a person living on the street saying, when I got money, I always bring something to the fridge for others because I know that I can do something for others as well. So it's not just taking, but giving, and that's our community.
Thank you, Lorena. And exactly, that's another way how we challenge the bias is always building community and supporting each other. And so we'll wrap up with you, and Vinay, your thoughts.
I think everything has been said, but like they said, our community is completely resilient. We have faced a lot of struggles, a lot of challenges. Maybe some people have faced the worst of the worst, right? And they continue to grow and they're strong. And that's what our community is, a strength. And no matter what, as a community, we're going to continue to build, and we're going to continue to reclaim our space and stay here.
Thank you. So I think we have time for a couple of questions from the attendees tonight. So thinking about this discussion today, if there's anything that you wanted to hear from this amazing, strong, inspiring woman of Mixteca, please type the question in the chat and we'll read a couple of questions and then we will wrap up. Thank you.
And also I know in the chat, they are putting some links to donate. So if you have the possibility to do it and you wanted to support our work, I know we have Janet, and Janet has been amazing bringing money into the organization, and we all been working for that. And our board is amazing as well. We have here part of our board that we are so proud and happy and honored to be working with all of you. But as the person who was giving to the community fresh, I think we all can give something to continue doing this work. And yeah, I think there are some questions there already, Maria.
Yes, thank you. So the first question comes from Carlos Perez Valle, and I love this question. Thank you for asking it. How can men become better allies in this work that is being led mostly by women? So I don't know, Lorena, would you like to take this first question?
Of course, my favorite. Yeah, yeah. I think the first part for allies is to sit down with discomfort and to being able to really review what they are doing. And the first thing is you are doing it right now, Carlos, and is asking the others, what can I do to support you? And attending these panels like today is a way, being able to listen, but being able to listen also when someone point out something that is doing not in the best way, because most of the time or many times we don't have bad intentions. We just don't know how to do it because we grew up in this patriarchal system where women are for something and men for something. So being able to really sit down and think, because sometimes it's uncomfortable to do some things in a different way. It's like we don't know what to do, and then we just do it the way it is. So being able to ask women what do they need at that point, being able to support our work is another way to do it, and being able to sit down and analyze what my behavior is. How do I feel when I hear this powerful woman around me? How do I feel? How can I be stepping back a little to open spaces also for them when I'm taking space for other women? And that's the way that I can say, just we can start with that. And thank you, Carlos, for that. And I think you are an amazing ally already. But thank you for bringing that question for others that maybe wanted to be better at the support woman in this work.
Thank you, Lorena. And we have another question from the R. And Janet, in your role as Director of Development, I would love to start answering this question. Where do you see Mixteca 10 years from now? I know we've heard from Vianney about some of her dreams around programs. And I think one thing to keep in mind, Janet, before you jump in is Mixteca is always changing and always evolving according to the needs of the community. And we spoke a little bit about the reasons why we can do that successfully. So where we see Mixteca 10 years from now, it could be a dream, but it could also change depending on where our community will be 10 years from now. But Janet, I'll let you elaborate on that and take it from here.
Thank you. I'm excited about this question because as many of you know, or if you've been following our social media or have been in the loop with our programs and services, Mixteca has outgrown its space. We need a bigger space. Hopefully in 10 years, we have our own building, our own bigger space where we can really just revamp and expand our programming and services. I think that's something that we would love to have and have, increase more staff at the organization. It's always been a dream of ours, I think, as a collective, to really have more full-time and just increase capacity, because that's where the needs are. And really, I think one of the things that has been a priority or has been really majority led by Lorena is kind of providing dignified payments for staff. And so that's something that we're going to continue working on, and really ultimately we're aiming for that space. So we want to have a center where we have not just one floor, but many floors, and we can create and rearrange the space as we need to, because, Mixteca is growing and it's been here for over 20 years and we need a bigger space. But yeah, if anybody else wants to add anything, that's our main priority.
Thank you, Janet. So in the many ways to help Mixteca is, if you have expertise in helping us find, build, or raise the funds for that space, please reach out to the team and we would love to hear from you. But thank you to panelists. Thank you for everybody who attended, and thank you for all your hard work. Like I said, you inspire us every day, and I know the community really values everything you do, and you have been there for them at a critical time, which has been the past 2 years. So thank you for being there. You are definitely esenciales. So I would love to show Mixteca, Janet, and Vinay gratitude, and I'm gonna make an ask. I know this is being sent throughout the conversation, but we'll wrap up with an ask. One of the ways we said we challenge the bias is by building community, and everybody has something to contribute to that community. I posted our fundraising page for the Women's Empowerment Fund to support the work that the team is doing. Please consider making a donation of any amount to our Women's Empowerment Fund tonight after this conversation. And that will be a great way to show Lorena, Vinay, and Janet gratitude for sharing their experiences and for their work. Thank you very much, and we'll wrap up here.
Thank you, everyone.
And I have one ask. I know that we have many participants here that also speak Spanish, y maybe les podemos extender la invitación para que compartan algo o...
Gracias, Janet. Sí, para las personas que hablan español, en el chat pusimos un link que apoya nuestro Fondo para las Mujeres de Mixteca, y una de las formas en que podemos mostrar nuestro agradecimiento a Janet, Vianney y Lorena es contribuyendo a ese link. Gracias.
Gracias a todos por haber estado aquí. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Nos vemos en las calles.